This is Micro-credential in a Minute, produced by Micro-credential Multiverse. Hi, my name is Rob.
And my name's Katie, and we are micro-credential and digital badge experts.
Great. Today, I asked Katie to join me for a conversation about how micro-credentials motivate learners. And I know you've thought a lot about this. So what do you think, Katie?
This is a fun one. So first thing I'll say is that motivation is super complex. It's never purely intrinsic or extrinsic. Sometimes we hear those things on different ends of the spectrum. It's always some blend of both. And I'll also note that when we talk about credentials and motivation, we can think about motivating elements of the tech itself, as well as motivating elements of how that tech is used. So when thinking about how credentials are related to motivation, I like to think of this is probably very nerdy, but I like to think of it through the lens of self-determination theory, which states that we have three core psychological needs, and those are competence, relatedness, and autonomy. So I'm going to break that down. In terms of competence, credentials are literally physical proof that you know or can do something. And research shows that in the context of learning outcomes and engagement specifically, mastery-based credentials, ones that actually speak to your competence, are typically more effective in reaching those goals of learning outcomes and engagement than performance-based credentials, which just prove that you completed certain tasks. So next concept of relatedness comes from a couple of things. One is utility, that this is going to help me achieve a goal that I care about, whether that goal is preparing for a new role or building a skill that I need to perform my current job. And relatedness also comes from social connection. It grants me an affiliation with a certain brand or membership with a certain community I admire. That's related to reputation. And there's kind of a transfer of that reputation to yourself when you suddenly have perhaps a credential image that has that logo now on your LinkedIn profile. Autonomy then comes from the freedom to pursue all sorts of different types of experiences that are going to help me achieve specific goals at any point in life. So micro-credentials are basically the lifelong learner's tool to shape and tell their professional journey however they want to. And one note I'll add is that autonomy is undercut in the case of a few things like maybe compliance courses where we have to complete a course to fulfill a requirement, or when people don't have flexibility to learn what they want when they want. Maybe that's in a degree program with set prerequisites. In those cases, credentials can be used as an extrinsic lever to incentivize just the completion, but also to emphasize those intrinsically motivating factors of competence and relatedness that are going to then allow that learner to feel intrinsically motivated. So one more thing that I've been thinking about on this topic is whether micro-credentialing pathways that incorporate some incremental recognition, so we think of those stackable credentials, can actually help learners build self-efficacy, or a belief in one's capacity to act in ways that are necessary to reach specific goals. Self-efficacy is a huge part of motivation. If we think we can achieve a goal, then we're probably more likely to pursue that goal in the first place. So I think that's an area that's really ripe for research.
Yeah, and I think that pathways, when they're structured, when they're well formatted, help learners literally see the steps they need to take to get where they want to go. They can see the stepping stones. They're demystified. So I totally agree with you there. You mentioned those three components: competence, relatedness, and autonomy. And I wanted to just provide maybe an example of all three of those things. So when I'm thinking about a signal of competence, something like the Certified Ethical Hacker Program is an idea that comes to mind. It shows an interest in the space of penetration testing and like white hat hacking, but it also serves as a really important stepping stone for folks who want to maybe pursue software engineering or development or cybersecurity in a non-traditional way. So that would be an example of the micro-credential that motivates in terms of its competence. When it comes to relatedness, I like that you mentioned the logo, because I remember when I was a teacher, I was looking at micro-credential programs that I was developing with Digital Promise, and things like Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots and like National Geographic really jumped out at me because it was very related to like my role as a biology teacher. And having that logo really motivated me to pursue those specific like service learning style courses versus something, that might attract a different teacher. When it comes to autonomy, I actually think this speaks to the popularity of non-degree bearing certificate courses. So especially professionals who want to differentiate themselves, maybe within their current workplace, or maybe they're planning, a lateral move or maybe a promotion or something like that. Being able to signal that they're motivated to pursue that additional learning qualification, regardless of whether or not it bears any credits, really speaks to that kind of motivation and the blend intrinsically and extrinsically, like you mentioned. Can you think of any other examples that maybe leverage a blend of motivations?
So one example I'm thinking of is not a credential bearing experience, but theoretically it could have been recognized by a credential. And I think a credential just amplifies the learning experience. So I think it's still relevant. I was in a consulting engagement and I was tasked with designing a survey. I had taken maybe one class on this in grad school, but I needed a refresher that was very tactical. So I found a MOOC online and completed the course. And as I was going through the course, I was just immediately applying what I was learning. It was directly related and useful to my goal at work. I completed the engagement. I finished up the course online and felt very competent that I was able to successfully deliver that engagement. So I would say that helped me feel competent. It scaffolded my work that I needed to do anyway. And it was directly related to the goals that I had in the moment.